Welcome to Lento English. Ready to level up your English? Here we learn through stories, slow, clear, and fun. Listen, relax, and enjoy the journey.
1. Introduction. Japan is a very well-known country in Asia. It is a rich nation with a strong economy, one of the biggest in the world. Many famous companies that make cars and electronics come from Japan. Its cities are modern and busy. Japan has its own government and its own leaders. The most important leader is the Prime Minister. The people of Japan choose their leaders in regular elections. From the outside, Japan looks like a completely free and independent country. It seems to make all of its own decisions about its future. However, some people ask a very serious question. They ask if Japan is truly in control of itself. There is a popular idea or theory that a different country secretly manages Japan. This country is the United States of America. People who believe this say that important choices for Japan are not made in Tokyo. They say these choices are made in Washington, D.C. This control is not open for everyone to see. It is quiet and hidden like a shadow. This theory is not often discussed on the news, but many books and articles in Japan talk about it. To understand this idea, we must learn the meaning of a puppet government. Imagine a puppet, which is a type of doll. A person, called a puppeteer, uses strings to make the puppet move. The puppet looks like it is dancing or talking, but the puppeteer is making all the actions. A puppet government works in a similar way. It has leaders and buildings, and it looks real. But a more powerful foreign country is the puppeteer. It secretly gives orders and pulls the strings. This government might make new rules or laws that help the powerful country, not its own people. This lesson will explore this difficult question. Is Japan's government a puppet of the United States? To find an answer, we must look at many things. We will study the long relationship between the two nations, which started after a big war many years ago. We will look at information about secret money and powerful American officials. We will see the evidence that supports this theory. We will also learn about the other side of the story, which says the two countries are just good friends and partners. This introduction is the start of our journey to understand this important political mystery. 2. After the war, the story of the special relationship between the two countries begins a long time ago. To understand the situation today, we must first look at the past. The year 1945 was a very important time in world history. It was the year that the Second World War finally ended. This was a huge and terrible war that changed many countries forever. Japan was on the losing side of this war. When the fighting stopped, the country was in a very difficult situation. Cities were damaged, and people did not know what the future would be like. Because Japan lost the war, the American military came to the country. This period is called the American occupation. An occupation is when another country's army enters and takes control of the government and the land. For 7 years, from 1945 until 1952, the United States was in charge of Japan. American soldiers were a common sight in the cities, and American generals made the most important decisions for the country. This was a completely new start for Japan, but it was a start that was carefully guided by another nation. During these 7 years, the Americans introduced many big changes. The most important change was the new constitution. A constitution is the main rule book for a country. It explains the most important laws, how the government works, and the rights of all the people. The American leaders wrote a completely new constitution for Japan. This new document was very different from the old one. The Americans also changed the whole system of government. Their goal was to build a new, peaceful, and democratic country. The old leaders lost their power, and new American-style rules were put in place. These changes were very deep and affected every part of life in Japan. In the year 1952, the occupation officially finished. On paper, Japan was an independent country again. It could make its own choices and control its own future. However, one very important thing did not change. The American military did not leave Japan completely. Thousands of soldiers and many large military bases stayed behind. These bases are still in Japan today, many decades later. They are a constant reminder of the connection between the two countries. This time after the war is the foundation of the modern relationship. It was the beginning of a very close and sometimes difficult partnership. The changes made during the occupation were permanent and shaped the Japan we see today. The continuing presence of the American military also created a special bond that is unlike any other. For people who believe the theory of American control, these 7 years are the key. They say this is when the long story of deep American influence in Japan truly began. 3. The secret money. In Japan, one political party has been very strong for a very long time. This party is called the Liberal Democratic Party, or LDP. For most of the last 70 years, the LDP has been the government of Japan. When one party has power for so long, it becomes very important to the story of the country. To understand the relationship between Japan and America, we must look at the history of this powerful party and a secret from its early years. Many years after World War II, the American government decided to show some old, secret papers to the public. These were official documents from the 1950s and 1960s. This was a time when Japan was still rebuilding and finding its place in the world. The information in these papers was surprising for many people. It showed a hidden connection between American spies and Japanese politicians. The documents proved that the Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA, gave secret money to important leaders inside the LDP. The CIA is America's main spy group for foreign countries. This was not just a small amount of money, it was a lot of cash given in secret. This is not a theory or a rumor. It is a fact that comes directly from the American government's own historical papers. The money helped the LDP leaders to win elections and become more powerful in Japan. But why did the CIA give this secret money? At that time, the world was very divided. The United States was worried about a political idea called communism. In a communist country, the government owns and controls almost everything. America did not want Japan to become a communist nation. The CIA believed that the LDP would keep Japan friendly to the United States and stop communism from growing. The money was a tool to make sure Japan stayed on America's side. People who believe the theory of American control say this secret money created a serious problem. They say it created a political debt. A political debt is not about paying back money with more money. Instead, it means you owe loyalty and you must do what the other person asks. The theory says that because the LDP took this secret cash, its leaders had to listen to America. This old agreement, made in secret more than 60 years ago, might still be important. It could be the reason why Japan's government continues to follow America's lead today. 4. The American bosses. After the war, the relationship between Japan and the United States became very close. But some people think it is not an equal relationship between two friends. They believe a small group of powerful Americans has too much influence. These people are sometimes called Japan handlers. This name is a key part of the theory. A handler is a person who manages or controls an animal or another person. So the name suggests these Americans secretly control Japan from far away in Washington, D.C. They are not elected by Japanese people, but the theory says they have great power over the country's important decisions. These Japan handlers are not secret agents working in the dark. They are famous experts and former high-level government officials. You can easily find their names in newspapers or on the internet. Some of the most well-known names include Richard Armitage, Michael Green, and Joseph Nye. These men are specialists on Japan. They have studied its history, its economy, and its government for many, many years. They often travel to Japan for private meetings. They meet with the Prime Minister and other important politicians behind closed doors. Because they have deep connections in both the American and Japanese governments, they are very influential people. In public, these men are presented as good friends and partners of Japan. Their official job is to advise leaders and help the two countries have a strong, positive relationship. An advisor is someone who gives helpful ideas and professional information. For example, they might discuss how to improve trade between the countries or how to work together on security in Asia. This is the official story that everyone sees in the news. However, the theory says this is not the complete truth. It claims these men are not just advisors. They are more like bosses. When they speak, the Japanese government listens very carefully and rarely disagrees. Their words are not treated as simple suggestions. Instead, they are treated like orders that must be followed. Believers of the theory think that Japan's leaders feel they must do what the handlers want to keep America happy. One of the main reasons for this belief comes from special reports. The Japan handlers often write these reports together at powerful organizations in America. The reports are about what Japan should do to be a better and more useful partner for the United States. For example, a report might recommend that Japan needs to change its economic rules or build a much stronger military. After these reports are released, something interesting often happens. The Japanese government starts to talk about making new laws, and very often these new laws are almost exactly the same as the ideas from the American reports. For people who believe the theory, this is not a simple coincidence. They see it as clear proof of control. They think the Japanese government is just following a plan that was made in America. This makes it seem like the most important decisions are not made by Japanese leaders in Tokyo, but by their American bosses in Washington. 5. the Post Office Bank. For many years, the post office in Japan was very special. It was not just a place to buy stamps or send letters. It was also one of the biggest banks in the world. It was called Japan Post, and it held the savings of millions of normal Japanese people. Families saved their money there for generations. They trusted the post office because the government owned it. They believed their money was safe. The total amount of money in this postal bank was huge. It was more money than some countries have in their entire economy. This giant pool of savings was an important part of Japan's financial system. Then, the Japanese government decided to make a very big change. They decided to privatize Japan Post. To privatize something means to sell a government service to private companies. This was a complex and difficult process. After privatization, the post office bank would not be owned by the government anymore. Private businesses would control it. This was one of the biggest economic changes in Japan in many years. Many people in Japan wondered why this was happening. The post office bank worked well for a long time. According to the theory of American control, the United States was the reason for this change. The American government and the men known as Japan handlers put strong pressure on Japanese leaders. They said that privatizing the bank was a good idea for Japan's economy. But people who believe the theory say there was a different, hidden reason. They believe American companies wanted access to the massive amount of money in the postal savings system. The theory explains that large American insurance companies and investment banks saw a great opportunity. If Japan Post was private, these foreign companies could enter the Japanese market more easily. They could sell their own financial products to Japanese people. More importantly, they wanted to control where the savings money went. After privatization, the new private bank could invest the money anywhere in the world. The theory says the goal was to make the bank invest this money in the American stock market and other American businesses. This would move trillions of yen from Japan to the United States, helping the American economy. For believers of the theory, the privatization of the post office is a clear example. They say it shows how a powerful suggestion from Washington can become a new law in Japan, even if it is not what is best for Japanese citizens. 6. Buying big weapons. In recent years, Japan made a very big decision about its military. The government announced a new plan to spend much more money on defense. In fact, they decided to spend 2 times more money than they did before. This is a very large change for a country that has been peaceful for a long time. This new money is for buying new and powerful weapons. A lot of this equipment will come from the United States. For example, Japan is buying hundreds of special missiles called Tomahawks. These missiles can fly a very long way and are very advanced. The country is also buying new jet fighters. These airplanes are some of the most expensive and modern in the world. The total cost for all these new weapons is many billions of dollars. The Japanese government gives a clear reason for this big spending. They say the world is becoming a more dangerous place. They look at their neighbors like North Korea and China and feel worried. North Korea often tests new missiles. China is building a very strong military. The government says Japan needs better weapons to protect itself from these possible dangers. They believe that having a strong military will help keep the country safe and stop other countries from attacking. However, people who believe in the control theory see a different story. They do not think this is only about protection. They ask why Japan is buying almost all of its new weapons from American companies. According to the theory, the Japan handlers in Washington, D.C. put pressure on Japanese leaders. The theory says they told Japan to buy these weapons. For these believers, the real reason is money. Buying these expensive jets and missiles sends a huge amount of money from Japan to the United States. This money helps big American companies that build weapons. So the question is simple. Is Japan spending more money for its own safety, or is it a way to help the American economy and its powerful military industry? 7. Friends and partners. Not everyone believes that Japan is a puppet. Many experts and politicians say this idea is completely wrong. They see the relationship between Japan and the United States in a very different way. For them, it is not about control. It is a story of a strong partnership between two independent and equal countries. They are friends who choose to work together because it helps both of them. One of the biggest reasons for this partnership is safety. East Asia can be a difficult part of the world. Japan's neighbors include countries like China and North Korea. These countries have large, powerful militaries and sometimes act in dangerous ways. For Japan, having a strong ally is very important for its security. The United States has one of the most powerful militaries in the world. The American bases in Japan are not there to give orders. They are there as part of a promise to protect Japan and keep the entire region stable. When Japan buys American weapons, like missiles or jets, it is not because someone is forcing them. It is a strategic decision. The government believes these are the best tools to keep the country safe from any threat. It is a practical choice for national defense. The friendship is also built on shared ideas and values. Japan and the United States are both strong democracies. This means that the people in both countries have the power to choose their own government through free elections. Citizens believe in important ideas like freedom of speech and human rights. These common values are very important and create a deep connection between the two nations. They are not just military partners. They are partners in supporting freedom and a stable world order. They often work together on many global problems, from trade and the economy to protecting the environment. Therefore, when American experts give advice to Japanese leaders, it is not a boss talking to an employee. It is one friend giving ideas to another. Japan's government is completely free to listen or to disagree. They make their own decisions based on what is best for the Japanese people. The alliance is a choice that Japan makes every day. They choose to be a partner with the United States because this relationship makes Japan stronger, more prosperous, and safer in a complex world. It is a partnership of two equal nations. 8. The final answer. We have looked at many ideas in this book. The story started a long time ago, after the Second World War ended. We learned how the United States military stayed in the country. This was the start of a very long and close relationship. Then, we saw information about secret money. Documents showed that the CIA gave money to Japanese politicians more than 60 years ago. The goal was to stop communism from growing. This fact makes some people ask if a secret debt was created. We also learned about the powerful American advisors. These people write reports and give advice. Often, the government in Japan makes new rules that are very similar to this advice. We saw this with the post office bank. The United States wanted Japan to sell its post office bank system. Soon after, the government did this. More recently, Japan decided to spend much more money on its military. It is buying many expensive jets and missiles from American companies. This makes some people think that the advisors are more like bosses and that the country is not truly in control of its own choices. But we also heard the other side of the story. Many people believe the two countries are just very good friends and partners. They say Japan needs a strong friend because of its dangerous neighbors. They argue that the two nations share important values like freedom and democracy. From this view, the relationship is a choice, not a prison. The advice from America is helpful, not an order. The weapons are for protection, not just for profit for American companies. They believe Japan makes its own decisions for its own safety. So what is the final answer? Is the country a puppet or is it a partner? The truth is not simple. Some facts, like the secret money from the past, are clear. But what these facts mean today is a big question. It is a mystery. There is no easy answer that everyone agrees on. Some people see a story of control. They see a powerful country telling a smaller country what to do. Other people see a story of cooperation. They see two friends working together for safety and success. After learning about the history, the money, and the big decisions, you must now think for yourself. You have seen the evidence for both sides. Is the government truly free, or is someone else pulling the strings? The final answer is the one you decide.